All right, let's get into it. Have you ever wondered what it really takes to make a simple 2D game? It's not just about writing code and drawing pretty pixels. It's actually a whole series of creative problems that developers have to solve, one right after the other. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and break down that entire process, from a totally blank screen all the way to a finished game. And that's really our starting point. You gotta think of game development less like writing a book and more like a journey of overcoming one challenge after another. Every single step, from making a character jump just right to, getting people to actually play your game, it's all a problem that needs a solution. We're gonna walk through that journey, one problem at a time. So, first up, we have what I call the empty world problem. Imagine this. You've made a character. They can run, they can jump. It's great. But the world around them, it's just there. It's a static, lifeless stage that doesn't react to anything. And that's the crucial first question, isn't it? How do you make the world actually react to the player? How do you create rewards, dangers, consequences? It's all about breathing life into the world and making it feel truly interactive. Well, one of the first tools a developer will grab is something like an Area 2D. The best way to think about it is as an invisible tripwire. You can wrap this invisible zone around a coin, or an enemy, or the exit door, and its only job is to shout, "Hey, something touched me." It's a super simple but really powerful way to make things happen. And using just that simple tool, you can create some pretty complex rules for your game. By checking how the player touches that invisible zone, you can trigger completely different results. So for example, if the player comes in from above, they jump on the enemy's head, the enemy gets defeated. But if they just walk into it from the side, bam, the player takes damage. This simple logic is basically the foundation of platformer strategy. Okay, so the enemy knows it's been touched. But now what? How does the rest of the game know what to do? That's where something called signals comes in. Think of signals as the game's nervous system. When that snail's little invisible zone gets triggered, it doesn't try to handle everything itself. Nope. It just sends out a message, a signal, that basically says, "Hey everyone, the player just ran into me." And this creates this beautiful, clean chain of events. So the player touches the snail's invisible zone, the snail immediately sends out a player died signal. Meanwhile, you have this central game manager, kind of like the game's brain, and it's always listening for that exact signal. It catches the message and then tells the player object, "All right, game over for you. Go ahead and play your death animation." It's this really elegant, organized conversation happening between all the game's pieces. So now our world is interactive, which is awesome. But right now, everything is happening in one tiny little box that fits on the screen. Let's tackle the next problem and see how we can blow this thing wide open. Right. How do you give the player a sense of scale, of exploration, of real progress? How do you make them feel like they're on an actual journey instead of just playing around in a little sandbox? The solution is actually surprisingly simple. You just attach a camera to the player. By adding what's called a camera 2D node, the game's view is no longer stuck in one place. It follows the character wherever they go, revealing the level bit by bit. This one single element is what completely transforms a static screen into a huge, sprawling world that feels like it's begging to be explored. Of course, at the end of that big journey, you're gonna need an exit. And a level exit isn't just one thing, it's a whole little system of parts working together. First, you need a visual cue, like a flag, so the player even knows where to go. Then, you guessed it, another one of those invisible Area 2D zones to detect when they get there. And finally, you have a script that gets triggered, fades the screen to black, and loads up the next level. It's all designed to create this really seamless feeling of progress. Okay, so we've built a world and we've built a journey. But here's the thing. Just because something works, that doesn't mean it's fun. And that brings us to our next major challenge, which is all about the player experience. This is really where the art of game design meets the science. How do you clearly communicate to the player what's happening? How do you make their actions feel weighty and impactful? And how do you create a challenge that's interesting without just being frustrating? So it all comes down to feedback. The player absolutely needs to know what's going on. A score that visibly ticks up, a satisfying little ding sound when they collect an apple, a clear display of their health. These are not just decorations. They are essential communication tools that tell the player, hey, what you're doing matters. Even something as simple as a pause menu is huge because it gives the player a sense of control over their own experience. A good experience also needs variety, right? So instead of having the player just run on static, boring ground, developers will add dynamic elements, like moving platforms. This introduces a whole new layer of challenge. It's all about timing now. And it just makes the world feel so much more alive and less predictable. It keeps you on your toes.
Okay, so you've done it. You solved the technical problems. You solved the design problems. You have a fun, polished, working game. But now you face what is often the single biggest and, frankly, scariest hurdle of all.
This is the question that keeps indie developers up at night. I'm serious. You can pour your heart and soul into building the most brilliant game in the world, but if nobody ever sees it, did it even happen? This is the massive problem of discoverability. And here is why that problem is just so immense. Look at this number, 19,000. That's how many other games were released on just one platform, Steam, in a single year. You're not just creating a game anymore. You are fighting for attention in an unbelievably crowded ocean of competition. Because that competition is so fierce, the genre you choose to make a game in becomes a massive strategic decision. Just look at this breakdown. Some genres, like the platformer we've been talking about, are just completely oversaturated. It is incredibly hard to stand out. But others, like simulators, have shown they sell really well and have a ton of potential. It goes to show that making a game isn't just a creative choice, it's a business choice too. And this quote from a developer it hits the nail on the head. In a crowded marketplace, first impressions are literally everything. A game that might be simple but has a really strong, appealing art style that just grabs your attention, well, that's far more likely to succeed than some massive, complicated game that just looks generic. Polish and a clear vision matter a lot. So that's the ultimate problem, isn't it? It's the final boss of game development. It brings together everything we've talked about. To succeed, you need the technical skill to build an interactive world, you need the design sense to make that world fun, and you need the market awareness to make it stand out from the crowd. It's a challenge that demands creativity and problem solving on every single level.